Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, April 20th, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a bit about my co-host. Do you know, folks, April 20th is also shorthand for 420 Day, aka Marijuana Day, aka every day in Canada, thanks to Justin Trudeau. My co-host shares my feelings about marijuana. We don't like it. We also don't like the fact that April 20th in 1889 was the birth date of the most evil dictator imaginable. I'm not even going to say his name. With that aside, she is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
I'm doing great. And before people just light me up in the comments, I don't care about marijuana. It's just not for me. And I don't want to ever find out if it's for me. But you know what? Before we keep going with the show, David skipped over the biggest reason today is special. So I'm going to say it. It's David Menzies' birthday today.
Oh, well, thank you. But it's so embarrassing because, yeah, and you can light me up with the comments too. It's just the stench of that marijuana, Sheila. It's like a dead skunk in the middle of the road. By the way, why did skunks always die in the middle of the road? Have you ever noticed that?
But, yeah.
and
I think they die everywhere. That's just where we see them, David.
Okay, then. And of course, Hitler sharing the birthday doesn't work. I'll tell you one thing, Sheila. I was born in 1962, and on that day in 1962, it was Good Friday. So you see, there was something special on the good side, I should think, of April 20th. And I did not go to the dark side. At least I don't think I went to the dark side. But I will tell you this, Sheila. Super producer Olivia gave me the most beautiful greeting card. I say that because... Yep, I looked at the back right away. $6.99. There you go. High five on being born. And it counterbalanced the most cruel thing that happened to me this morning, perpetrated by Lady Menzoid. So we get up, Sheila, and she whispers in my ear, "Hey, happy birthday, Menzoid." I said, "Oh, thank you." She says,
She calls you Menzoid?
Yeah, that's what Olivia said.
Wow.
She said, "You know how for the last couple of years you've been begging for us to get into even more debt by you buying a classic car?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, it's your birthday. Check out the garage." Sheila, I ran like, I'm talking 1988 Ben Johnson sprinting times. Run downstairs, open the door to the garage, look at this classic car. It was this, a model kit, okay, a model kit of a Joker Goon car, which is a 1978 Dodge 3700 GT. And the joke's on Lady Menzoid, actually, because that might be the most undesirable classic car in the whole litany of classic cars. By the way, you can't go beyond 1972. EPA kicked in 1973. So anyways, that was my ha-ha got you birthday gift. And you know what? You know what would have been really nice? You know how that works, Sheila? It works with just kidding, and then you have some jabroni drive in the real classic car, like a 72 Mustang, Mach Boss or something like that. But no, I've got a model kit for my birthday, Sheila.
Would have been even funnier if she lured you to the garage all enthusiastically like that and said, okay, can you take out the garbage? It's sitting there. Next year, Lady Menzoid, next year.
I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
surprised the
funny.
rat didn't nod it overnight to the package.
Do you still have that rat in there?
It's about the size of a beaver, and it's getting even more bold. It used to like run away right away. Now
No.
it runs half the length and stares at us like, "What are you looking at?"
No,
I
I'd
don't
be
know what
calling
to
the
do,
next-
Sheila.
I would be calling a Remax agent. There's no way that I'm sharing a home with a rat. No thanks. Nope. We don't have them here. And so I've never actually seen one in the wild. I never want to. Yeah, no thanks. I thought you were going to say something like there's a Subaru Brat in your garage.
Oh, come on! Don't tease me that way, Sheila. You had one,
I
and
did.
how did you ever sell that?
The price was right. The price was right. I'm nothing if not a money motivated individual in that regard. I love to buy things and flip them. Anyways, we'll tell everybody what we're doing around here. We've just spent 9 minutes talking about your birthday, and I still want to talk about it because if you are watching us on Rumble, that's a great free speech platform. You want to get involved in the show. Let's say you want to send David Menzies a birthday wish or tell us about your favorite story that David did in this last calendar year of his life. Why don't you put it in a Rumble rant? That's your paid chat over there. And if it's over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory. We're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. Now, I should tell you that I have an interview that I've scheduled for just shortly after the top of the hour. So I'll do our very best to get to those. If you're watching us on YouTube, same rules apply. However, if you have missed the live version of the show, but you want to leave David Menzies a birthday wish in the comments there's a paid comment called a super thanks, and that'll show up highlighted for all to see. Your kind regards for one of our favorite people on the face of the earth, David Menzies. So
That's so nice. That more than makes up for you not jumping out of a cake today for me.
No, we talked about that in the morning meeting. You're not getting any people jumping out of a cake. I just thought I would do my best to be a hustler and monetize your birthday. So anyway, David, let's get into the news of the day.
Yes.
Mark Carney is saying that, look, we can't be friends with the Americans anymore. CBS News picked it up. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said in a 10-minute video address Sunday that Canada's strong economic ties to the United States were once a strength but are now a weakness. What? Excuse me, what? The world's largest market, that's being linked to them as a weakness? Okay. That must be corrected. Carney further spoke about his government's efforts to strengthen the Canadian economy by attracting new investments and signing trade deals with other countries. Somebody pointed out over the weekend, even as dumb as that foppish idiot, debutante Justin Trudeau was, he was actually able to get a trade deal done. Now, it wasn't good, but CUSMA, USMCA, did get done under his watch. Carney can't even manage to do that. We've got a clip of that address. I didn't even watch it. I couldn't have cared less. But anyways, I should have watched it because I have to talk about it on TV today. Let's watch it together. Mark Carney says our former strength, our friendship, our strategic alliance with the world's largest, strongest military, the world's largest, strongest economy, somehow that's a weakness and we must purge ourselves of it. What? Excuse me? That's crazy. Let's watch.
So here's the current situation. The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided. The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses that we must correct. Workers in our industries most affected by U.S. tariffs, in autos, in steel, in lumber, are under threat. Businesses are holding back investments, restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. The U.S. has changed, and we must respond. So here's the...
Yeah, you notice one of those sectors was auto, Sheila, which is the number one Canadian industry, cars and car parts and what have you. And one of his solutions is to allow cheap Chinese EVs into Ontario.
Yep.
Sorry, who benefits there? By the way, who's the dealership network? If anyone thinks China is going to build a plant in Ontario to build
No.
these cheap, no, that's not how they work. And if you did go that route, something like 90% of Canadian production goes south of the border, and you're not sending those cars over the Peace Bridge with the Trump administration. They call them spy cars. Even Doug Ford broke ranks with his best buddy to decry that deal. So, I'm very much struggling where all this new trade with these overseas partners is coming under the Carney New World Order. Oh, did I say that? Well, actually, Carney says that. He doesn't.
And
hide
his wife,
it.
and his skeletal wife also said the same thing in her speech to the Liberal convention. Also, okay, so we need new markets, fine and dandy. Then why do they keep telling us that there's no business case for Canadian LNG? Why don't we have a pipeline to take our oil and gas offshore to other markets besides the American market? Why don't we have that yet? They keep talking about building out new markets, but they haven't done anything to build out new markets. Mark Carney keeps saying that we need to join the EU or something crazy like that. But look, we've got this happy new relationship with China. I hate it, but why can't we sell them some oil? Why can't we build a pipeline to do that? We're just not. The Japanese wanted our LNG. We just said, no, thank you. I think the Greeks wanted our LNG. We also said, sorry. Us selling you a product somehow isn't a good business case for us, which is not how capitalism works. But he says these things, but we really have nothing to show for it except endless virtue signaling and trips to Europe.
Oh, and Sheila, to bolster your point, now that Iran and Venezuela are out of the oil export business, China very much needs new sources of oil and LNG, and but we're too tepid to go down that road. I saw the energy minister mentioned something. I was hoping to scrum him yesterday. He was scheduled to go to a secret Liberal meeting that we found out about, that he's open to developing the oil sands if it's woke enough. And I have no idea what that means. That's why I wanted to scrum him. But also, Sheila, with all these side hustles going on with other countries, I heard Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. He's the food professor. He writes fantastic columns. They're syndicated in many newspapers. And he talked about, I can't remember the commodity, but it was some agricultural trade deal Canada signed with India. And he said, that's Dr. Charlebois, that the amount that deal's worth is equivalent to 1 day worth of trade in terms of agricultural products going between Canada and the U.S. 1 day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how is that a panacea? How's that a solution for us?
It's not. And I just want to touch on this one thing. I wanted to show you how screwed up and upside down the oil and gas market is because of the 10 or 11 now years of Liberal strategic blockading. Like Alberta lives with the problem of the Strait of Hormuz every day. The Strait of Hormuz for us, though, is in Ottawa. The Egyptian government, or Egypt, is selling us LNG because we can't get infrastructure even to bring our own LNG across the country, let alone off to other markets. Isn't this
embarrassing?
Crazy? It's ridiculous, but this is what it is. We are not a real country. Like if we were any other country on the face of the earth, we would be exploiting all of Alberta and the West's oil and gas resources, our lithium, our potash, all of those things. But we're just not, because if Ottawa allowed us to do that, it would give us power within Confederation. So they'd rather damn everybody than let us succeed.
That is nothing short of embarrassing, Sheila. I mean, talk about bringing coals to Newcastle. We're buying LNG from Egypt.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking. We have some other clips, if you can stomach it. Shall we throw to...
Yeah, let's give her. We've got to take care of ourselves, he says.
And the days that young Canadians have known all their lives haven't been that good. Their lifetimes have been marked by a series of shocks and crises from abroad. The Iraq War, the global financial crisis, COVID, And now this. We have to take care of ourselves because we can't rely on one foreign partner. We can't control the disruption coming from our neighbors. We can't bet our future on the hope that it will suddenly stop. But we can control what happens here. We can build a stronger country that can withstand disruptions from abroad, that creates good jobs here at home, that's a leader in this new world with a vast network of reliable allies. That's the Canada Strong plan we're putting into action. And the days that...
Okay, is he crazy? Like, young Canadians are hamstrung. They can't get a doctor, can't build a house, can't move out of their parents' house, can't find a job, even an entry-level one at Tim Hortons, because of the Iraq war? What? Because of COVID? It may be, but you people did that. You guys damaged the economy, the Liberals. Who was in charge during the COVID lockdowns and the COVID damage to our economy? You guys. We shouldn't trust you to fix it. But to say like, oh, young people are in a bad place in Canada because of foreign wars? What?
And by the way, Sheila, did he misspeak when he said the Iraq War, or is he going back to 1991 Operation Desert Storm? I mean, I wasn't sure.
See, he said foreign wars are the problem with young people getting ahead in Canada, and that's not it. It's the war with Ottawa that the rest of us have.
Yeah.
That's why young people can't get ahead. It's the war with Ottawa on immigration. It's the war with Ottawa on their out-of-control spending. It's the war with Ottawa on their inability to allow us to innovate in our healthcare sector. It's all of that. It's the war with Ottawa on their catch-and-release bail program. That's why young people can't get ahead.
Yeah, and how about this war, Sheila? Mass migration.
I said immigration. You're not even paying attention when I talk.
Okay, then. You know what? You know what the problem is?
You know, it's his birthday. He's old. It's okay.
It was that darn toy soldier on Carney's desk, making me hard to concentrate. And I found out what the story is.
Didn't Mike Myers give it to him?
Yes, it's Sir Isaac Brock, going back to the War of 1812. Before, technically, Canada was Canada, but never mind.
Yeah. Is that supposed to be our great defeat over the Americans when we burned down the White House, and then Mike Myers, the great Canadian, moved to the United States and then became an American citizen? We're supposed to listen to him on patriotism?
Yeah.
You call me a traitor because I'm a Western separatist and I got to listen to Mike Myers tell me all about Canadiana? No, thank you.
Unbelievable.
We got Polyev remarking on this video. By the way, Erin O'Toole came out and said, oh, that's a great video.
No way.
Of Prime Minister Mark Carney. I found how it was shot distracting from just a technical eye. I found the zooming in on his weird little goblin hands kind of strange, and the zooming in on the stuff on his desk as I know what they're trying to do. They're supposed to foster intrigue and interest, and then we're supposed to find out what the stupid soldier is or whatever. And then I found out the story of the soldier, and it made me madder. But I found it distracting how it was shot. I kind of like Danielle Smith just sitting there talking to me, and I'm listening. I find that more
Sheila,
appealing.
There's something important here about the very way the message was conveyed. Once upon a time, a prime minister would have gone to the major networks and say, hey, I need some airtime. And now they must know that their audiences are so small and fragmented. We're just going to take this in-house and put it on social media. We're going to have way more of a reach. Didn't you find that incredible? Because that's how it used to be done. It'd be like a Canadian version of a State of the Union address. And who cares about CBC, CTV, and Global anymore?
Well, there's that. And for all these people to whine and cry and snivel about Trumpian stuff and Trumpian tactics, this is a Trump thing. Trump just goes around to the major networks and talks to the people directly. Yeah. So this is a page right out of his playbook. Frankly, it's the most effective way to talk to your audience is to avoid the dinosaur media. But I just found how it was shot kind of distracting and weird. But Erin O'Toole liked it.
Well, that means it is a disaster. But to finish my way of thinking, Sheila, the difference between U.S. and Canadian media, with the exception of PBS in the U.S., is that it's not subsidized. So if Carney sees no value in making this address on major networks, then why are we throwing billions of dollars after, at this sunset industry?
What, you want me to fight with you on that point? Of course. I just gave a speech at the House of Commons about that.
I guess it was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a tacit admission that, the $600 million plus endless subsidies after that, plus endless tax credits after that, hasn't helped their audience share at all. As I told the committee, the CBC viewership is a statistical rounding error of Canadians, despite the fact that they are forced onto every TV set and cable package in the entire country. So yeah, even he knows it, I guess. We've got Poilievre's remarks to Carney's message of how we need to sever ties with the Americans, and our friendship with the Americans is now a weakness. Actually, I think the fact that Carney's been a bad friend is the weakness. But anyways, Poilievre is actually taking another view, which I think is kind of good, because I wouldn't think that he would have taken this view during the last election campaign. Prime Minister's video is another illusion. He says he wants a permanent rupture with our biggest customer while he keeps 90% of his personal investments in the U.S. Exactly. We don't need a permanent rupture with our biggest customer. He's doubled the deficit, negotiated no free trade deals with any other country, approved no pipelines, given Canada the worst food inflation, worst household debt, worst housing costs, and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Fear is not a plan. We must reverse liberal taxes, deficits, anti-resource laws so we can be affordable, safe, and strong at home. Sorry, can we scroll up a little? I can't see the bottom. Oh, that is the bottom. I would have liked to have seen, once again, the Liberals have destroyed our relationship with the Americans. They cannot be trusted to rebuild it. That's the message, I think. That's the message the Conservatives should be bringing home. And they're just not saying that. Like, they're not the boogeyman. The Americans are not the boogeyman. We have to stop this.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sheila. So what do you think the strategy in the Conservative war room is for this?
I think they're warming up to that, like changing the message. Michelle Rempel-Garner, who is, of course, married to an American Army veteran, she gave a speech to that effect, like laying out our strong historical ties, like we've been friends and allies since the formation of this country. We fought in wars together, died together, longest undefended border, most important strategic and trade relationship on the face of the earth ever in human history. And that should not be thrown in the garbage. That should be something that we work to fix. But Carney appears to have thrown in the towel, I think, as just a political strategy to keep those elbows up boomers in the fold.
Yeah, and there's one other thing too, the obvious geographical ties. I mean, we have this enormous shared border.
I said the longest undefended border. Are you having some kind of stroke today?
No, but I'm just talking about in terms of trade, not in terms of... That wasn't very nice on my birthday. But what I'm getting at too, Sheila, is that when the trading partner is 10 times the market, that makes them ripe for export from Canada.
Right. They're right there. It's not like we have to put stuff on cargo ships and sail it halfway across the world. They're right there. The majority of Canadians live along that undefended border. It's really easy to go back and forth with trade. But Carney wants us to ignore just the geography of it all, too. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's better than did you have a stroke today?
Happy birthday. I told you were right.
I'll take that present. How about, shall we pivot to David McGuinty talking about Canada-U.S. security partnership? I think we have some video of McGuinty in action. Let's see what this fellow has to say. I understand he was surrounded by MP bobbleheads. Good golly, what's that?
Okay, so watch for a lot of this.
The Prime Minister's, sorry, just to pick up on what my colleagues were asking, the Prime Minister talked about this response to this increasingly unstable world as, kind of provoking this response and this uptick in recruitment, but also in messaging, even just yesterday, he kind of laid the blame at our biggest security partner, the U.S., for kind of creating that level of disunity, that level of dysfunction in the global affairs. We spoke with the ambassador on Friday. he seems to continue to tout the importance of that Canada-U.S. security relationship, but also noting that it's becoming difficult to foster those ties with Canada, considering the rhetoric coming from the Prime Minister's office. Do you agree with that assessment, that this comments, even like on Sunday, saying our ties with the U.S. are now a weakness? Do you think that undercuts our ability to do security work with the Americans?
I think what the United States, excuse me, I think what the Prime Minister was indicating in his remarks was that things have changed, that we have a really important relationship to manage, and we are managing it well. For my part, from the defense, security, and intelligence side, we continue to manage that relationship well and work hand in glove together. For example, under the rubric of NORAD, the only binational command in the world, I've managed to get to all 4 NORAD bases. We work very, very closely on that front. We're still negotiating our way forward on, for example, over-the-horizon radar systems and other systems that integrate our continental responsibilities. I've seen no changes on that front. Look, the Prime Minister has also indicated that sometimes when things happen, you have to move, and you have to move quickly. And that's exactly what he's done. What he's done is brought a plan to bear for the country's future, including in the defence space, which is why we've launched Canada's first defence industrial strategy, which is why we're giving rise to a more prominent defence sector, which is why we've been making investments in these sectors for the past several months. We'll be making more. And it's one of the reasons why we're moving to build our military, rebuild, rearm, reinvest, which is exactly what we're doing. And these numbers this morning, I think, reflect that. So I think what the Prime Minister was indicating to Canadians is that we have an opportunity in front of us. Let's grab the opportunity. We have a very important relationship to manage. We are dialoguing constantly with the United States on the security, intelligence, and defense front. I see no difference on that front. Of course, there are economic issues that have to be resolved. I'll leave that to the Prime Minister.
You know, Sheila, what does a defense industrial strategy mean? Making sure there's an appropriate supply of tampons in an all-male barracks?
And I like how he brags, like, look, believe me, I went to all 4 NORAD command bases. Yeah. Great. So you went to Winnipeg? like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't give you any credibility on this issue. And I just put in the chat, Olivia, at the bottom there, it was a committee clip from the other day. It's from Juno News. And I just want to tell you, this is our robust military in action. The Department of Defense bureaucrat was testifying at the House of Commons. Watch this. This is our robust defense strategy that will uncouple us from the Americans. Just listen.
Our department made changes to the screening process for permanent residents, significantly increasing recruitment in this population. This was reflected in the report, which showed that over a 6-month period, 763 permanent residents were recruited compared to a 30-month period previously in which only 177 recruitments were achieved.
So not even Canadian citizens, in other words?
No, not at all. No, Canadian citizens
what could go
don't
wrong?
Want to sign up. Yeah, I know. And, you know, when they say, oh, they're permanent residents, so we shouldn't have to worry about them. Maybe some of them are on a track to become actual Canadian citizens. But I've seen their screening flaws. I think we all have, you know. So this just, I think, they took this to the committee thinking this is a great love story of how we're building the Canadian military. And if I were the Americans, I would say, aren't they giving citizenship to ISIS terrorists? Maybe we should be looking at the Canadian military as a security threat at this point.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines, Sheila. I wonder how many of those new recruits are, members of the IRGC. And we know on the very bottom end of the estimate, about 700 plus in Canada. I know my contacts in the Persian community say it's much greater than that. What a disgrace. I mean, the idea this is about security and you're going the most unsecure fashion to put people in positions of security doesn't compute.
Right. And then also throw DEI into the mix, right? So these may not be our best and most motivated folks. I'm just saying.
Yikes.
We've got Rosie Barton and Andrew Scheer. And Andrew Scheer, again, I say this every time we have an Andrew Scheer clip. He's an excellent MP.
Yes.
Wasn't the greatest leader. That's all I have to say.
Maybe if he had the way he's been since he was no longer the leader, Sheila, maybe if you had a do-over,
Right, for
we'd
sure.
get. Yeah, no, but I agree.
I want this Andrew Scheer.
Yes, where was
to
this
have been the
Andrew Scheer in
leader.
2019?
What was going on in the OLO? That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's watch this. Rosie thought she would take a run up on him, Rosie Barton from the CBC, and it didn't go well for her.
I understand that you don't want this change to happen, but it does, and I say this with respect, it does sound a little bit like you're in denial that the majority has happened. And I understand you don't like the way it's happened, but this is where we are right now. It's a slim majority, so we'll see how long it lasts. But so what others, I mean, you were Speaker of the House of Commons. There are other things that you can do to make sure you are able to have a check and balance on the government, are there not?
Well, first of all, I would say no one's in denial. If anyone's in denial, it's the government that is refusing to accept the results of the last general election.
Yeah, there are other things he can do, Sheila, like, I don't know, write a very terse letter to the editor
Cross
of the
the
Globe
floor,
and
I
Mail.
guess. Cross the floor, I guess, Rosie. Is that what you'd like for him to do?
I never thought of
He
that.
is right. He is right. Like, the only people in denial here are the Liberals who keep adopting floor crossers without sending them to by-election.
Yep.
Yeah.
And admittedly, to be fair, it's a flaw of the system. 'Twas ever thus, floor crossing was a thing. But Sheila, it was like once in a blue moon, once in a decade, and it didn't have this kind of effect, turning a minority government into a majority government. And having said that, it has to be fixed. We need this to be that you sit as an independent till the next election, or it automatically triggers a by-election in 38 days, or whatever the shortest time frame is. Because this, as I've said before, Sheila, Carney being a creature of business, this is that little thing they call a hostile takeover. I want it, they don't want to give it, I'm going to get it anyways. And it's unprecedented and it's gross, because going back almost a year to this day, the Canadian people did not reward the Carney Liberals with a majority.
No, absolutely not. Hey, before we hit an ad break, we've got another clip from committee, just on the topic we were discussing before. And this is from James Bazan. And remember how I said we may not be recruiting our best. We just might not. Okay? We're just trying our best efforts to make sure that the military doesn't collapse in on itself through attrition. James, you know what? I'm not even going to cue this up. Just know that when I said we may not be recruiting our best, this is a great example of it. Just watch.
I'm hearing that at St. Jean right now, where we do all of our basic training, that there is a large number that are either voluntarily withdrawing or have failed to meet the standards. Some of them even on language. Some of the PRs are not functional in either French and or English. So based upon that, we're hearing that there's temporary shelters being built to house them. I thought that all of our forces that all those that have gone through basic training or in basic training, whether they voluntarily withdraw or not, that they're paid to go home, not to be stored up in temporary housing like tents. And I'm hearing up to 13 units being built to house those that have not gotten through basic training.
Okay, so isn't let me just, because that sounds like it's just a housing project for immigrants to Canada, right? They are going to basic training, not functional. I'm not even saying fluent. Functional in English or in French.
Yeah.
They are withdrawing or being asked to withdraw from basic training. And then instead of saying, okay, thank you, here's your ticket home, they're building housing, refugee camps at the military base to house these failed recruits. What on earth?
It's unbelievable. And all I could think about was that whole tent city quip, Sheila. It kind of reminds me of the old great TV series MASH. And I mean, in a Canadian context, it was, you had to reside in tents. What foreign nation were you at war in that you had to have these rudimentary, basic dwellings? Home base in Canada, actually. We weren't at war with anyone.
Do you remember when we took in all the Syrian refugees and they were housing them at military bases?
Yeah.
This is that again. They just put a different wallpaper over it.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then they can say recruitment's up. Look at all these recruits to basic training. But they're not telling us the truth, that they're skedaddling out of there after probably a week or two because they can't communicate with anybody. But they're not even sending them home. They're saying, okay, well, I guess you can live here now.
Isn't it amazing, Sheila? We had a good CEO of Air Canada fired because he failed to make a statement in French about that terrible accident at LaGuardia. And yet, if you can't speak either French or English, which the question arises, what language are they speaking? I'd like to know that. But, that's okay. You don't need to speak either of the official languages. Bit of a double standard, wouldn't you say?
Not only not speak either official language, also not complete your basic training. Like there's absolutely no requirements of these people, and we'll just shack them up at the military base. While our military is being deployed without proper MREs to Latvia, without proper equipment to Latvia, we're building refugee camps on base to house the failed recruits who are permanent residents.
Unbelievable. Remember that story? It was, I can't remember which Middle Eastern country they were deployed to, but instead of desert camouflage, they had like Arctic winter camouflage.
No, it was green. It was the green digital camo
green?
it was the green digital that they were deployed with. And I think it was maybe it was Kuwait. Okay. I think it was during Kretchen's time, I want to say. But yeah, they were deployed to the desert in green digital camo. And guess who came through for us?
U.S.?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. And in the bigger picture, Sheila, thank God we live under the U.S. military umbrella so that we can always depend on them if there was any nefarious state hoping to invade us. That's what it boils down to. We really don't need a strong military. We have that conceit that our big brother to the south, suddenly big bad orange man in the White House, he's a good fellow if anything like that were to happen.
Right. And that's why, when people say, well, what if Alberta leaves, what are you going to do about the military? We don't need a military. Americans love us. They're not going to let anything happen to us. We should hit an ad break and we'll come back on the other side because I think we should talk about the breaking news from Doug Ford.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. We'll be back on the other side.
Gun bans make great distraction.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
Big news, Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong. All right, got a quick message from our friends at Rumble Wallet. We have to pay the bills, keep the birthday boy employed. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to say, buy, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you can control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when the institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. That's from our friends at Rumble Wallet. Now, David, take a birthday victory lap around Doug Ford, please.
Yeah, we set a new record for the company, Sheila. Shortest Rebel News campaign ever. Less than 48 hours. We put out that call to action on Friday. Stop the gravy plane. And by Sunday, in the, I think even Sunday morning, Sunday early afternoon, Doug Ford bent the knee, living up to his nickname of Triple F. That would be Flip Flop Ford. And you know, Sheila, I want to tell our audience, despite the brutal PR optics, you know, with the cost of living being what it is, the unemployment, homelessness, the number of tent cities popping up, food bank usage, despite the optics being brutal, that Ford acquired an almost $30 million luxury private jet. Just before Ford bent the knee, a gentleman in Oshawa, his name was Darren Welgan, he reached out to me. He's a veteran pilot. I just want to recite verbatim what he had to tell me, because I know nothing about aviation, but boy, did I get an education about how horrible this purchase was. Here's what Darren had to say, quote, "The Challenger jet is a corporate jet designed to fly transcontinental or transoceanic flights. It cruises at a speed of about Mach 0.75 or 75% of the speed of sound at an altitude of 41,000 feet. That's important because at 41,000 feet is where the Challenger is designed to burn fuel most efficiently, 330 gallons of jet fuel per hour. Down low, let's say at 10,000 feet, where you'd fly for very short hops, a jet like this would see that fuel burn increase by some 40%. You would not use this jet to fly from Toronto to Windsor, let's say, or even Toronto to Sault Ste. Marie. By the time you got to cruise altitude, it would be well past its destination," end quote. And what Darren went on to say is that's why within Ontario, you would use a turboprop plane. Also, the Challenger jet would have a lot of difficulty in some Northern Ontario airports landing. Some of these airports have gravel runways. So I don't know, Sheila. Turboprop would be the way to go for intra-Ontario travel. But you know what? They're probably a little noisy. They're not as comfortable and quiet and not as well stocked with, oh, I don't know, fine California wine and Kentucky bourbon. So it was the wrong animal. If Ford was using this to go to the UK, if Ford was using this to fly down to Florida, yeah, that's the right kind of plane, but not within Ontario. This makes no sense. Surely someone in the inner circle said, Premier, for what you need this jet for, it's overkill, but apparently not.
Well, that is presuming, of course, that that's what he wanted this jet for.
Correct,
And
yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to just scoot around the great province of Ontario, there are plenty of charters available for you to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to, let's say, maybe go to Florida, go to Washington, go to further distances away in much more comfort, then you would need this thing. It's almost like this wasn't designed for domestic use at all within the province of Ontario.
100%. And Sheila, maybe in a little way we had something to do with the decision being reversed. Not to mention there was a media frenzy. His political opponent smelt blood in the water. Ontarians of every political stripe, including those who are still part of Ford Nation, were losing it. But we mentioned we were going to file FOIs regarding this corporate jet, and we were going to track this jet, right? We were going to see where exactly it was flying to. There's ways to do that. And maybe they probably said, to your point, if it was never meant for intra-Ontario travel, if it was for junkets, to Florida, to Las Vegas, to Europe, well, the watchdogs are watching. We better just scuttle this idea once and for all.
Yeah, well, we've got a clip from Ford. And it's funny because when we brought this up on Friday, I said, oh, I remember all of this when this happened in Alberta and we had this fleet of planes. They weren't even jets and they were using them as Alison Redford's minivan. She couldn't pick up the kid, so they sent the plane to get the kid. And then they were blocking out passengers, making fake passengers so that she could ride alone without a full plane of, I don't know, her entourage or whatever. And then when it became such an unbearable scandal for Albertans, they sold the planes at a loss. And I think you're going to sell this jet at a loss. But anyways, we've got a clip from Doug Ford here. Let's watch.
There's no one in this country that is scrutinized more than I am. I'm willing to take that. What kind of really disturbs me is the inconsistency with the media. We have the federal government, rightfully so, and let's put the Prime Minister to the side, that they went out and bought $753 million of jets for the ministers, rightfully so, by the way. We live in a massive country.
Rightfully so, he says.
When it comes to the Quebec, buying $107 million of 3 jets, which I agree. They live in a massive province. No scrutiny. But when I do it, I guess there's a double standard. And that's my position. I have to take that. But I just want to explain to the people, our province is massive. And never be too shy. Like a lot of politicians, they dig their heels in. I think I've proven over and over and over again, if I hear from the people they don't like it, I change my mind.
Oh my God.
What? The whole, I mean, I'm speechless listening to that absolute load of baloney. But I don't care what everybody else is doing. I care that Doug Ford said, I don't want a private jet. And then he went and got himself one.
Sheila, what I took out of that is that, oh, look at all these other people with these great toys.
Why can't I
have
have
those
one?
Great toys, and then you made me give it away, put it back in the toy box. Boo-hoo, woe is me. And I just made the case, not from my lips, but from a veteran pilot, this was not the right plane for the province of Ontario. If the Premier really needed a plane, and I understand there are some planes in the Ontario government fleet, but they're not Challenger 650s. Let's put it that way, Sheila. But if you needed a brand new plane or a late model used plane, it would be a turboprop. That would be the ideal plane. And by the way, Sheila, speaking of which, I can't believe how devious or cynical this Premier is. Less than 4 weeks ago, the province of Ontario moved to declare Billy Bishop Airport, that's the island airport in downtown Toronto, a specially designated economic zone, which means that they can bypass municipal rules and even provincial rules. Because Billy Bishop was always under the auspices of the City of Toronto, and the City of Toronto does not want jets taking off and landing in Billy Bishop. And actually they can't, because you'd have to expand the runways. Now that is a special economic zone, the runways are being expanded. And by the way, I do agree with jet travel going in and out of Bishop Airport, Sheila. But I think we know the real reason why Doug Ford put Billy Bishop as a special economic zone, so that his corporate jet could fly
100%.
in and out of Billy Bishop. And Billy Bishop, a hell of a lot more close and convenient to Queen's Park than the world's worst airport, and that would be Toronto Pearson International.
Yeah. Toronto Pearson was worse than airports in India.
True.
And that's true. That's not me exaggerating, as someone who frequently flies through Pearson. And who Pearson lost my daughter's luggage for like 120 days one time. On her way to Ireland, not on her way back.
Oh.
At least she had her cleats and her mouth guard in her carry-on. So she was able to play with her team. But yeah, that's Pearson for you. But yeah, I mean, everyone is mad at Doug Ford because he was the Mr. Stop the Gravy train guy, and then he got himself the gravy plane. Like, that's why everyone's mad. What other provinces are doing? No, but like, yeah, I don't buy the planes, especially Quebec, because I'm buying the plane for them. But, you know, he came out and said, I don't want these things. I would never buy these things. Not only that, I like to fly commercial because I like to talk to the people. Remember he said that? I like to drive around because I like to talk to the people. And then he's like, get me the jet.
Yeah, and here's my cell phone, folks. Here's my number. Call me anytime.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone. But you're absolutely right, Sheila. Doug Ford's brand was, I'm the common man driving a common van. And somehow we went from that to the next profile in Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It is an utter betrayal. And you know what? I think he's done great harm to the brand here and to the PC Party of Ontario. They don't have to worry about an election for another 3 years. But people will remember this. This is Doug Ford's $16 glass of orange juice, if you will.
Yeah, completely. And it was the thing with the $16 glass of orange juice with Bev Oda was not that the CBC was mad. It was that Conservatives were mad.
Yeah.
And that's what spelled the end for Bev Oda.
Yeah.
Because the CBC is always going to be mad. This is bad for Doug. This is real bad because it was Conservatives who were like, what? Doug, who? What are you doing?
Is it true, Sheila, that Doug Ford is secretly taking French lessons? He's got aspirations of, you know, what do we do as conservatives if that is the case in the future? Doug Ford, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, here's the thing. If
You'll be
Alberta,
independent by then.
Yeah, it won't be my problem. But if on the chance that we are not out of this beleaguered country by then, and we haven't taken our fraternal twins in Saskatchewan with us, because how could we leave them behind? The Western Bloc of Conservatives will stop that.
Yep.
Doug doesn't get past Saskatchewan, Alberta, and the interior of BC into the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. He just doesn't.
Oh, Sheila, you don't even have to overthink it like that. I know so many Conservatives who were gung-ho. They were on, you know, Ford Nation, Team Doug back in 2019 or 2018 when he first ran. And, you know, the signs of contempt were early. It came around COVID, where he called them a bunch of yahoos for their demonstrations at Queen's Park. These were Ford Nation people. These weren't leftists. And suddenly, and they embraced it. They called themselves, they rebranded themselves as Yahoo Nation. Those people will never vote for Doug Ford again.
Yeah. We have to move along because I want to hit this last thing in the headline. There's a few things we didn't talk about. Actually, well, we got two things left in the headline we need to talk about. This from Holly Doan from the from Blacklock's Reporter, one of the really true independent media outlets in this country.
Yep.
There's merely a handful of us. Who breaks the story that foreigners in Canada on temporary permits will number 2,069,500 this year, even with quota cuts. Access to information records. So Mark Carney imposed cuts after complaining the system isn't working. Yeah, but there's still 2 million of them in the country. What did you cut?
Yeah, well, Sheila, I'm hesitant to weigh in here because, you know, in the eyes of Victoria Bozanovsky, councillor at the town of Whitby, if you're against the temporary foreign worker program, you are xenophobic, racist garbage. And she's evidently a conservative, right? And
Wow.
you mentioned Aaron O'Toole earlier, right, Sheila?
That's it. Yeah, that's an O'Toole conservative right there. You know, I'd like to see her make those cases to Michelle Rempel-Garner, who's a trained economist, who is the immigration critic. So she's the perfect point person for the conservatives on this, because I think she's generally socially liberal, but just like a hard line on immigration and the economy. And, you know, so Michelle has this like laser focus on how all of this stuff is harming the future of Canada. So I'd love to see your little fake conservative counselor call Rempel-Garner a xenophobe to her face.
Yeah, I would love to see that too, Sheila. And by the way, one other important point, the word temporary. Don't be so sure about that. We have seen protests. They began in Brampton. I see them all over. I see them in Atlantic Canada. I saw them just last week in Winnipeg, where you're seeing the narrative of demonstrators, typically with left-wing public service unions propping them up, and they're using the leftist talking points, i.e. no one is illegal on stolen land, and say no to hatred and racism. That would be those citizens who say that, you know what, your permit's over, it was temporary, time to go home. That makes you a racist and a hater.
Right. I don't care if you're from England. If you're not supposed to be here, you have to leave.
100%.
Like, I don't care where you come from, why you're here. If your permit is out,
yep,
I'll drive you to the airport.
And Sheila, if you and I flew to, say, India, and we fell in love with Mumbai, and, you know, we said, hey, hell no, we ain't going to go. We want to just be part of the Indian cultural experience forever. How soon before we're handcuffed and dragged to an airport?
Right away. Right away. And don't just drag me to the airport, drag me to the insane asylum. Yeah. I think, Olivia, is there another clip that we missed from the headlines? Okay, we're all good.
Right.
Let's hit the couple of chats.
Oh, great.
And then we'll wrap up. So, okay, we've got one here from Guillotine Press, 9467, gives us $20 and says, happy birthday, David, a national treasure.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm going to have to research Guillotine Press. That would be a perfect media outlet for me to work in, because how many times in my life have I heard the editor say, we're cutting your story, Mitch. Natural fit.
You know what? I do it in the nicest possible way. I do. I don't hurt anybody's feelings. I know everybody works hard. We've got another one here from JP Alberta First, gives us $20. We have no Air Force to speak of. Our Navy only has 60% of floatable ships. The biggest are frigates. Oh, sorry. I can't finish reading this. Soldiers have no helmets or ammunition. We aren't young Canadians. Why aren't young Canadians lining up in droves to serve? Please explain to me. Yeah, exactly. You know, there are some. I know a young man 2 years ago signed up for basic training and off he went to Quebec. But it is so rare. It's so rare these days when there are just so many, at least in Alberta. Again, I look at things from an Alberta-centric view, but I mean, you can graduate university and make $150,000 a year in the trades, or graduate high school, I should say, and make $150,000 a year to start in the trades. You're going to join the military, make, you know, $40,000, $50,000 a year, put your life on the line, and you work with junk.
Yeah, not a chance. But I'll tell you what, Sheila, I do take exception to one of those points the viewer made, no Air Force to speak of. As someone who goes to the air shows, what about those 9 red and white planes called the Snowbirds? Now, I don't know if they can actually fire anything, but the way they fly in formation, they can maybe distract the enemy while the ground forces do something, I suppose.
Well, that's the thing. They'll just dazzle them, dazzle them. It's like showing up to a knife fight and then you just break into tap dancing, right? Like I admire the snowbird pilots for sure.
Oh, yeah.
They're skilled.
Yeah.
But again, that's like someone screaming at you and you start doing jazz hands, you know?
No, they're amazingly skilled in all seriousness, but not exactly a squadron of F-35s or something like that.
Yeah,
by the way, are we still buying Saabs? Is Carney still having that hissy fit to buy a plane that is incompatible with all of our NATO allies and the U.S.?
You're going to really show the Americans by not buying the F-35 that all of our allies are using.
Elbows up.
Elbows up. And the F-35 has just been a fiasco from the start. Harper gets in on the original buy of the F-35s, right? We get a good deal. We're going in with all the allies at the exact same time. And then Trudeau's like, what do we need those F-35s for? 10 years later, Justin Trudeau's like, yeah, I have a great idea. Let's buy some F-35s for way more money, and everybody else has them already. And then Carney comes along and says, we don't need those F-35s. They got the American stink on them. Let's get these other planes that nobody else is using. It's just a disaster from the beginning.
And I think, was it under correction? We bought those Lemons, those used submarines from the UK that never worked, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, now you know why the Beatles sang that song, Yellow Submarine, because yellow is the color of a lemon. You should avoid that.
I remember the big joke was that West Edmonton Mall had more operable submarines than the Canadian Navy. And it was true. It wasn't even a joke. It was actually true.
Sheila, you would never get in a submarine.
Not in a million years. Too claustrophobic.
With your fear of claustrophobia, not a chance.
Not a chance. I shoved old people in Israel to get out of a tunnel.
She did, folks.
I didn't mean to. I was very apologetic, but I had a panic attack. I did go back on my own, though, and go through that tunnel. I raced through it.
Oh, jeez.
I did. I ran. I waited until everybody was through, and then I was like, this thing is not going to beat me. I'm going to run through this tunnel at the bottom of a Crusader castle, and I did it. But, yeah, I didn't need anybody blocking my way.
Wow.
I think I shoved Ezra that day, too.
Well, it just shows you how cherished you are. You're still on staff, right?
Yeah, I did. I think I bounced him off a stone wall. Okay, JP Alberta First gives us $5 and says somebody is gonna get a great deal on that plane, knowing they have to sell it. Yeah. Enjoy the loss, Ontario taxpayers.
JP, I bet you a donut, or, well, given that it's a Doug Ford production, I bet you a slice of cherry cheesecake. There is no way they are getting $28.9 million for that plane. Whoever wants to buy that plane, and I don't know many people in my circle, Sheila, that have almost 30 million burning a hole in their wallet right now, but whoever has that dough, plus the knowledge that this government needs this off its hands as fast as possible, they are taking a haircut on it. 10, 15, 20% at least.
Yep. We should go past Drake's house again and see if he's got a new plane.
You really like that place.
Yeah, the speed bumps left a little bit to be desired on the bridle path. I was pretty car sick afterwards, but it was good. Okay, next one is from Abu Baker Al Puff Daddy 392, gives us $5. Hi, Menzoid and Gunny. Sheila, how were you treated by the Liberals NDP bloc during your recent testimony in front of the Parliamentary Committee? Well, there's the clip of how the bloc treated me. They wanted me to answer for things that I hadn't seen. I was in committee, in front of the committee, giving testimony. The hell I knew what Ezra was up to on the internet. And they're like, what do you think about what he's saying? What do you mean? I don't know what he's saying. You know what I mean? But anyways, the bloc, they thought the bloc were more concerned about mean tweets than me, even. And what I was saying about journalists being assaulted in the streets of our Grand Dominion. Libs and the NDP just pretended like I didn't exist, which is how I knew they were going to be. They only spoke to their witnesses. You saw who their witnesses were. But I knew that going in, that they were not going to ask me any questions because they were going to throw them right across the plate at me, and I was going to hit it out of the park. So they weren't going to give me that soundbite, so they didn't ask me any questions. And the bloc, they're just temperamental babies.
Well, you did a fantastic job, Sheila, and I think from a strategic point of view, that bloc member, I think I'm talking about the bloc member here who was speaking very quickly in French. I think he blew it. He should have widened his audience by speaking in English. Now, I know both languages, official languages, but if he had done so, he would have been able, I think, to make his point or points or attempted points to a much bigger audience, whereas most people were looking at the screen saying, what's this guy rambling on about?
Right. And the fact that he could ask me a question, I could then respond in English, shows that the translation was working perfectly fine.
Yeah. But we
so
at
whatever
home
problem,
didn't get that. Yeah.
Whatever problem he said that he was having, I wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Ezra wasn't having it. I mean, I guess as I walked away, it was like I had like a George Costanza moment where I was like, I wish I had said this, or I wish I had said that, you know. But
and that's when you make a U-turn back to Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. Just say the thing I meant to say and then leave. But like, I wish I had said, look, I'm here to testify on the beleaguered state of Canadian journalism. Can you save the mean tweets for later? But anyways, everyone has their George Costanza big moment, and yeah, I did too. All right, I think that's it. We're all caught up. Happy birthday, David.
Well, Sheila, thank you so much. It means a lot coming from you, of course. And I want to thank super producer Olivia for this beautiful birthday card, which cost $6.99, first thing I looked at. So that means Olivia really cares. And I'd read the message Olivia gave to me, but gotta be honest, Sheila, it's a little too risque for a PG audience. So I'm
sure it's not.
you are
sure that's
so wrong. Trust me, you are wrong.
Says to you.
But anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for the birthday greetings, and thank you to all of you who made a donation. It's how we keep the lights on around here. I shall be back at the Rebel News Roundtable panel discussion on Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And if you loved Sheila Gunn Reid, well, you get more of her tomorrow. She's with the lovely Lise out of Saskatchewan. They're the regulars on Tuesday. So until next time, as always, stay safe and stay sane.